you guys also sign in, name, and where you're from, and that way we'll encourage the rest of our attendees to do the same. So welcome everyone. I'm Bob DeYoung with THSADA. Welcome to the Region 8 Zoom webinar. Our host today is Melanie Hinson. She'll take us most of the way through the meeting. She's got some outstanding programming planned for us. I encourage every attendee to go ahead and sign in, the name and school district. You can also post questions in the chat, and if we're able to get to those today, we sure will. If not, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. Let's see. So our format today is going to be a welcome from FCA. We'll have our UIL update from Dr. Ellis and Brian Polk. We'll have our superintendent's panel. Then we will have our state sponsors, and then we'll have other programming that Melanie has on her agenda. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn the meeting over to Melanie. Thank you all for being here.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you for being here. I hope we have a great meeting today. I think hearing from UIL and our superintendent's panel is going to be great, something different. So at this time, I want to turn it over to Todd Johnson to give us our FCA message.
All right. Thank you, Melanie. It's really encouraging to see a lot of faces. I know it's very different in the last couple of months, but I'm excited to share with you guys because you have an incredible opportunity to move forward and take whatever those next steps may be. And so when it comes to taking next steps, it comes down to trust. Will the people trust us, and how will we go about this in this process? So I was just looking up some different things, and the message today is coming down to strength. And there's a promise that God wants to give you and I strength as we make decisions that affect the lives of others. And so in 2 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 9, it says, "The eyes of the Lord search the whole earth in order to strengthen those whose hearts are fully committed to him." And so God is looking to you, to me, and he's offering us strength as leaders that make decisions and choices. This passage was written to a king, but the promise is this, and there's certain characteristics that many of you have, if not all of these, and God promised us strength. And the first one is that we're humble. We don't have all the answers, and so that's why we rely on one another. And so the second one is that we're faithful. You guys show up every day doing the little things behind the scenes, and you're faithful to accomplish those things. Number 3 is you're virtuous. You live by a set of principles. Whether it's your school districts or just you yourself personally, you make decisions and choices based on standards. Number 4 is wise. You walk with wisdom. You know you have proper timing. You know when certain conversations need to take place and how to go about those. Number 5 is that you have servants' hearts. You sacrifice for the good of the whole. Number 6, you live for a bigger purpose. And number 7, you're good teammates. You work well together. And that's very evident this morning with the numbers of people that are on this call. You guys are great teammates. You work well together. You encourage one another. You're relational. And so it all comes back full circle to trust. Will those that we're leading, will they trust us? And in my opinion, from what I've seen in my relationships with you all, you have what it takes. And God will give you the strength. And where we find a lot of this strength from and how we move forward is through prayer. And this is how I do it in my life and personally in my relationship with God. The Apostle Paul in Philippians chapter 4, verse 6 and 7, it says, "Don't be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition with thanksgiving, present your request to God." And this is the good part that I really like. "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus." So don't be anxious. Pray. God, there's a God in heaven. He's relational. He's not distant. And how we connect with him and how he gives us what we need and the strength that we need is through prayer. And it's just prayer is just a conversation. It's being open and honest. It's about anything and everything. And it also requires us to listen, to make some space to get the guidance and direction, the wisdom that we need. And then, and And God is willing to do that for us. But a lot of times we just need to pause, but we also need to get that wisdom and guidance from one another. And so I'm just going to pray. I'm going to ask God to guide and direct y'all's steps, because you have some big steps that you're taking. And I believe and I'm trusting that God will give you everything that you need. And so let me just close in prayer here and let y'all begin your day. Dear God, thank you for that you were looking to us, that you have promised us strength. We are looking to you to guide our steps. I pray for everyone leading the different points of emphasis today, that you would lead them and guide them. I pray that they'd speak clearly. And I pray for your hand upon all of us as we go out and make a difference. We love you and pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. Have a great day. So now we're going to turn it over to Dr. Elza and Brian Polk, and I want to thank you guys for being here today, and happy belated birthday to Dr. Elza. So it's yours.
Well, thank you. You know, you have good teammates, and Brandy Belk was a great teammate yesterday, making sure, you know, everybody on Twitter Nation knew I was 50 years old. And yeah, I did my 50 dance, my Sally O'Malley 50 dance. I did that. I know y'all know that I'm that kind of person. So, hey, there are a lot of folks on here, Melanie. Good job. It's good to see everybody. There's Kelly Parker that just became the Northeast ISD Athletic Director. Congratulations. I can see him across the top, and I see a lot of people that are coming from all across the state, and I know why they're on here, and it isn't to wish me happy birthday. It is to maybe hear what we've got to say about June 8th. Hey, guys, I think I heard the roar around the world when we very first announced that June 8th was coming, and when we were able to finally get the document out on Friday. You know, it was a little bit of a groundswell at first because, you know, there's a lot of questions, and Brian and I are going to do our best to fill in the gaps today. Guys, we're not perfect. I think y'all understand that we try to be as broad ranging and as global as we can. We rely on this association and several others, THSADA, TGCA, to help us build documents like this, to help us modify and change rules. And where we feel like that a lot of that was fairly easy to understand, we also saw that there were some things in there that we didn't have just as we were posting. So I'm going to update you on a couple things. I'm going to shoot it over to Brian and let him talk you through some of the most recent questions that we're getting. But the bottom line is June 8th is coming. It's our first opportunity to all come back together. And we know y'all have a lot of questions. I'm going to hit a couple things, and then I'm going to come back to this strength and conditioning. You know, and the only reason I'm hitting this because I'm not sure that everybody in this region had all of our updates. The number one thing, and I do it every time, and I hope all of y'all do this for your leaders that you in your district. And we don't get from point A to point B without great leadership. And Dr. Harrison and Dr. Braddock have been pivotal. These are tough decisions. You know, we've been through a lot, all of us on this group and across the state and all the schools with the kids and the parents and all the things that we've had, the ups and downs of this. We kind of are on an uprise of giving us more hope to get to our seasons. And they have been, you know, outstanding. I think Dr. Harrison has had probably the biggest challenge on his hand trying to coordinate between the Texas Education Agency and our governor's office and getting this document approved. Our staff, Brian's on this call, but, you know, AJ and Brandy and Joseph, they spend a lot of time on this kind of stuff, trying to make sure that, you know, broad ranging, it's ready to go. And then for each individual sport that they're directors of, that we're hitting our marks. So it's been, you know, it's been a uphill climb for all of us. And I don't mean just UIL folks, I mean all of us in education, and we're getting there. And we just got to keep digging down deep and seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. Obviously, y'all know that our physicals changed. We have all of that information on our website. Those calls relative to that have gone down quite a bit. We gave grace in those physicals, you know, specific to those schools that had changed their board policy to have physicals every year. But, you know, if they're an incoming 7th grader, they're going to need a physical. If they're a 9th grader, band athlete hadn't had a physical on file. They're going to need a physical. So if y'all got questions to that, I don't think there's anybody on this call that doesn't have our cell number, at least one of us. So utilize us and we'll help you in any way we can. Just relative to physicals, this question has jumped a little bit. And I'm not sure why, unless just people weren't completely aware of their summer strength and conditioning programs, but all athletes should have physicals on file. So if you've got 7th graders that are going to be participating in this summer strength and conditioning program that you guys are going to have the opportunity to open up June 8th, they're going to be required to have a physical on file. That is not a new rule. That's not something that's new to UIL. It has existed all along. So that is one question I know that right off the bat, when people actually read through the document and read the Q&A, they asked for clarification on. So there's that. Hang on, I got a little list. Typed up over here. I think that's really, I think I can flip over. I do want to hit a couple things, and again, I apologize for having to be repetitive, but I'm just not sure who's been on this call, and this is the first time we've talked to this region. But the number one question that we're getting, and I just saw an email from Mark Cousins, because we're trying to pull all of this together, is eligibility. Are we gonna, every year a kid has to have 5 credits to be able to be eligible to, participate the next year? And are we gonna allow some flexibility on these kids that weren't able to finish the last 6 weeks of school, and they needed those last 6 weeks to be able to complete it? And because I'm gonna tell y'all, from one end of the state to the other, the way that people are doing their grading at the end, it's very broad ranging. So we're trying to make sure we capture all of those. We understand it, but our goal is to offer flexibility. And I don't think that we will communicate any of that flexibility in terms of eligibility until we get on into July. Okay. It isn't that we had forgotten about it. It isn't that we don't think it's important, but it's something that we want to make sure we capture every scenario and then build the rules around that. The CCP, a lot of people are asking when that's going to go up. It's not going to go up till late July. That's an agreement that we have with the Texas Girls Coaches Association and the THSCA, so that if, and hopefully they're going to be able to have in-person clinics just like the ADs Association. That way, the coaches that attend that, they get 2 credits for attending and they don't have to take a test. There's a benefit to it. So, and I've said this on every call I've been on. And I know that it's going to range from all across the state, but whether they have those clinics in person or they end up having them virtually, we all should be supporting those associations. They do a lot for our professions. And I know, right now that TGCA, they're the first one up, and our ADs Association is second, and THSCA, we've got to get ourselves registered and attend those clinics in whatever way, shape, or form that they may come out. They help make our coaches better, and they raise the professionalism for all of us. The remote learning, it's been incredible, and we've been very proud of our coaches and the creativity that's gone with that. And I know at this point it's probably getting a little old because they'd like to see their kids in person, but hey, June 8th is coming. That's all I can say. We are going to allow flexibility with the remote learning. That's probably one of the early calls that I got early on and text about this summer strength and conditioning. But, if they have some kids that their parents aren't going to let them attend, and they have some kids that are going to allow their parents are going to allow them to attend, all the different ranges of things that could happen out there, we're not going to say, okay, you can't have any more remote learning because you can go in person. We want flexibility, and your coaches should take advantage of it for this summer for sure. The question on everybody's mind is, will we start on time, and will we have fans in the stands and all that kind of stuff? I've continued to say this. I don't know that we can focus on our start times relative to everybody else's start times, because when you're in a state, we're only going to be playing people in our state, even though some of those distances are far reaching. But if you'll look at what our governor's doing, he continues to ease restrictions. So our belief is we're going to start on time. I personally think that the month of June is pivotal you know, in terms of how many schools are actually back in with strength and conditioning, how many, how much setback have we had? How many parents are letting their kids attend? Will that let us start on that August date, that first Monday in August? And, you know, all indications right now in late May is, yeah. And I don't know, maybe it's just my mentality. I just want us to all believe that we're going to get there. And if we do have some things to overcome, we're just going to deal with it. But I think that, you know, I think the one thing, and Brian and I were talking about this right before we got on this call, is will it look different in the stands? You know, will we be able to have full crowds at our volleyball games and our football games and all that? We don't know, and we will proceed and navigate that. Will there be an ease and restriction on the Friday night broadcast of games? There's no way in May we can make that decision. As we move into July and we see if our seasons are actually going to start on time and what restrictions that we're going to have in terms of the actual fans in the stands, I think that will help us, you know, make those type decisions. There's no way UIL wants, you know, a parent's, you know, son or daughter, you know, if they allow cheerleaders or band members and obviously the players on the field, there's no way UIL doesn't want a parent to be able to see their kids play. And we will move through that and make decisions, but those will be late decisions again. They're not going to come in June or July because we just don't have enough information to make those type decisions. DECs and RMA will be loaded, I'm hoping, somewhere around mid-June. But that means you can't, you know, you can meet with your new DEC, but any business that you have to conduct in there, it's your old district executive committee that's posted. We typically do not post those until after legislative council. We're going to try to get it posted as early as next week, and we'll send out correspondence if that changes. As that changes, excuse me. Our next school year will look a little different. Brian's going to talk about that, but I'm gonna flip over to just a couple things, and then Brian's going to hit just probably the most frequently asked questions that we've had relative to this June 8th release. Okay, hopefully, and we hear a lot from people because we've all been in the profession for so long, and you know, I want to give out a lot of credit to Bob and to Rusty for their hard work and pulling this together, and all the collaboration you're seeing across the state specific to athletic administrators is truly incredible. And it's one of those times where, you know, that the times got hard, but you know, we're a little tougher because we're going to pull ourselves together and be strong for everyone. Hopefully my internet is showing it's a little unstable, kind of like me. But anyways, I'm not really that unstable. I just had to say that. So I thought of something real quick before I hop over to this. The legislative council meeting will not be a live meeting in person. It will be a live Zoom meeting. It will be the 16th and 17th, and we will have no public hearing. And all of that stuff is posted on our web page. If you have a rule proposal, which when I last gave one of these last week, we were up to 13. I believe now our number is 15 because people are submitting written rule proposals because I don't think they have anything else to do. And we have a lot of written rule proposals, but if associations have rule proposals, they can turn them in. We'll meet with committees separately, and then we will culminate at the end with the legislative council, you know, taking their vote and taking action. In that, we do have that basketball piece where the sub-varsity pay was a little out of whack. Well, a lot out of whack because it was $20. The committee for the ADs Association did a great job, along with Andre, that's a member of that, who had submitted a proposal, and it looks like that's going to be a $5 increase pending council approval. I don't think there'll be a lot of action out of our legislative council for obvious reasons, but I do think that, you know, again, we've already got 15 proposals for athletics alone that have come in during the spring. So it may be a long meeting, but I don't think that you'll see a lot of action and a lot of rule changes. Okay, so back to June 8th. I want to say it just one quick time is one thing that was a little bit crazy about this, you know, we don't find out what the governor's going to say until the governor is on television, and we're just hoping that it lines up with what we're doing. It didn't line up this last time, so that's why it took us a little bit from last Monday's press conference to get everything revised and out to y'all by Friday. I think, you know, resoundingly what we're hearing, and I don't think people tell us what we want to hear at UIL. I think they tell us the what. And resoundingly what we're hearing is, hey, this is not bad. It's not too challenging, but I don't understand some things about individual sports. I don't understand what my cheerleaders can do. I don't understand on my one-on-one drills what exactly I can do. So we're working to revise some of that. Some of that, if you will just read the document, okay, especially the one that is the athletics document that is that has all the Q&As in there. I promise you those answers are in there. Okay, the other ones that we're getting are summer camps, tennis courts, can they be open, that kind of stuff. It's all in that document, but I'm going to turn it to Brian and tell you what we've done. We created 2 new documents, one is an individual sport document, and one we will have posted later today is a cheerleader document for those of y'all that are in charge of cheerleaders. Okay, if you've got other suggestions or you see a Q&A that doesn't make a dadgum bit of sense, or a Q&A that we didn't miss, then tell us. It's that simple. Okay, now we may not add it if we don't agree that it's not already in the document, but we want to hear it because we're trying to serve about 60,000 coaches and athletic administrators in this state, and it's important that we get it right, and you guys are the ones that help us. So I'm going to shoot it over to Brian and let him go through just some of the things that we have and give you a little preview of most likely what the rule change in terms of practice regulations will look for next school year. All right, Pope.
Thanks, Dr. Elza. And I will be somewhat quick. I'm going to try to hit on some of these common questions that we've gotten over the past few days and leave enough time for y'all to ask us any additional questions, but hopefully I can answer some of those in what we've been getting. Just to reiterate what Dr. Elza said, I think number one, the most important piece is that you get your people to read these documents. We've got a link right off our main athletics webpage on the front page of our main athletics website, and there's a link that says summer strength conditioning regulations, and we also have a link in there of our individual sports, and both of those documents have FAQs in them. I believe the summer strength conditioning and the sports specific document has 80 or 90 FAQs in it that does answer quite a few of these questions. Don't really want to hit on the changes that we made too much. I think everybody understands those. You know, we went from our sports specific instruction that we started last year where every kid was able to get 2 hours per week. We changed that to 90 minutes per day for this summer with no more than 60 minutes per day per sport. That's a UIL piece that we changed to allow our coaches and our kids to have a little bit more time from the time that they've lost. That's the easy part. All the COVID regulations and the safety and the social distancing regulations are kind of the tough part that we're getting into right now. So I'm going to hit a few of those. The number one question we're all getting are camps and leagues and who can use your indoor facilities and your outdoor facilities and all those things. We do have an FAQ that addresses this, but to put it in a simplistic form, the only thing that can be used in your indoor facilities, that includes natatoriums, indoor fields, gymnasiums, weight rooms, are the strength and conditioning and sport specific regulations that we allow from a UIL standpoint. So no outside groups, no outside leagues. You're not going to be able to have a summer league basketball or a summer league volleyball group as of right now until they relieve some of those restrictions. So nothing can be indoors other than what we allow from a strength conditioning and sports specific standpoint from your indoor facilities. Now your outdoor facilities are a little different. And we really go off of the Department of State Health Services recommendations on that. So can you allow camps or outdoor leagues or outside leagues to be in those outside facilities that you have from a school standpoint? And the answer is yes, but they have to abide by the Department of State Health Services, which right now, that currently still says you can only have 4 or less participants, which makes it pretty difficult to have a camp outside or to have any type of league. So if you do have a league, a 7-on-7 league, a baseball league that's wanting to get on your school facilities right now, it would be difficult for them to have that. Now, that stuff may change. It could change in 3 or 4 days from now. We do not know that. But that Q&A will change when we get new information. But as of right now, that really answers the camp and the league question, what you can do indoors and outdoors. Another question we have, the natatorium piece, can our swimmers be involved in our sport-specific training? And that answer is yes. I mean, if you have a natatorium that's a school facility, you have to abide by all the social distancing regulations. You can only have 25% of capacity, which is determined by the local school district. We're getting quite a few questions on how do we determine that, and that's really left up to you. Do you use the fire code? We have a lot of districts, a lot of ADs that are coming up with their own formula and how they're going to allow kids in their weight rooms and in their gymnasiums. And the one thing we would say is err on the side of caution, especially at the start of this on June the 8th. If you think, 50 kids in your weight room is 25%, take it down to 30 to start with and kind of work yourself into it so that we are making sure we're staying the 6 feet apart and the 10 feet apart when they're working out and all those good things. And I don't think I can say that enough. Err on the side of caution to begin with. But like Dr. Elza said, if we have success and our schools have success with all of these regulations, they are going to ease these up and we're going to be able to relieve some of these restrictions. We've got a couple of questions on the 1 to 20. It states in there you've got to have one coach to every 20 student athletes that you have. And that doesn't mean that you can only have 1 to 20. It just basically means if you've got 100 kids on a football field and y'all are all 10 feet apart, you've got to have at least 5 coaches out there. Those coaches can also be actively working. They can be working a drill with kids, but you have to have at least a 1 to 20 ratio out there with your kids. The main thing to look at is just, I said this already, we've got 25% indoors, and then outdoors, we do not have a regulation on the number of kids you can have. The social distancing is going to regulate you on how many kids you can have on a field. So indoors, you can have kids grouped up into groups of 10, and outdoors, you can have kids grouped up into groups of 15. Now, you can have multiple groups of those kids indoors and outdoors, depending on how much space you have. But that's as large as the group as you can have. Indoors is 10 and outdoors at 15. And however much space you have is going to regulate how many kids you can have in that facility or that outdoor field or that outdoor court. See what else. Those are the majority of the questions we've been getting over the past 2 or 3 days because everything is pretty much answered in those FAQs. I do want to hit on going into the fall that Dr. Elza mentioned. We are looking to try to give our coaches and our kids a little extra time in the fall from something they have not had in the past. So we are looking to add some strength and conditioning time outside the school day once we start the first day of school, whenever that may be. So it's going to be when the first day of school starts, everybody's going to be allowed 60 minutes, 1 hour a day outside the school day to have strength and conditioning. All right, no sports specific. It will have to be voluntary, all those things that we use, those regulations in the summer. But they can do their strength conditioning time outside the school day, whether they're in season or out of season. All right, and that will give those out of season sports their athletic period every single day to work sports specific skills and try to get back some of that time that they've lost last spring and even throughout this summer that they may lose. So that will be coming. We have not released that yet. It's not something we put on our website. It's not anything we've released, but it is coming. That at the beginning of the school year next year, you will have 60 minutes outside the school day to do strength and conditioning and hopefully give our coaches and our kids some sports specific time during their athletic period. So I know I rushed through that. I know we're going to have a ton of questions, and we wanted to leave quite a bit of time for y'all to ask us any specific questions you may have.
I answered one on the side. I don't know if anybody's looking in there, and if y'all want to type them in, the ones that aren't able to, you can either do it on the Q&A or you can do it on that chat thing on the side of your screen. That's where it is on mine. But there was a question. Hi, Dr. Seiler. How are you? So the question is about the youth programs, and and I'm going to tell you, I cannot tell y'all how challenging this is. And I'm not throwing shade at our governor's office. I'm really not. I mean, they have a large state to run from top to bottom, and he's just trying to get some things, some sense of normalcy. So the youth camp piece for what he released and the youth league stuff has, it's caused a little bit of confusion. TEA wants to completely control what goes on inside the building. They're not trying to control on what's going on outside the building. So, we kind of hang in the balance. But Dr. Seiler has on here just, with youth programs being able to start on May 31st, does that lift the 4 athlete limitation? And I would just guess to say that it will. When you look at those guidelines that they have posted on the governor's webpage on that COVID section, it doesn't outline much. I mean, it really does not outline much in terms of what you can even really do with fans. It just has a lot of recommendations on there. So we just know that right now that those youth leagues aren't allowed, but as of May 31st, they may be. And I know that Dr. Harrison, being our government liaison, will try to get some clarity on that. And anything that we have to change, we'll update on our webpage. And we're going to try to timestamp every time we change a document, because y'all know we're probably not going to just send out a ton of emails as changes come. But if they're wide scale and they're questions that have become challenging for y'all, then obviously we will send out emails. I see a question in there. What we got there, Polk?
It's talking about concussions, per open concussions with the spring semester. Are athletes that were under protocol good to join summer workouts, or do they still need a doctor's clearance?
I think they're going to probably, if they're coming back to play, and this is just an answer that from a liability standpoint, we haven't been asked that, and it's probably something that we need to take back to our staff, but I lean towards you need to get them cleared for the protocol for them to be able to resume. I know it's been a while, but I don't think we just say, they're good to go. So in my opinion, they're going to need a doctor's clearance on.
We've got one asking about groups for strength and conditioning and sport-specific instruction. And they're saying there's no number associated with the strength conditioning, and that one is just, it depends on if it's inside or outside. The inside groups are 10, the outside groups are 15. So if it's strength conditioning and you're inside in a weight room, it would be 10. If you're outside, you've got weight equipment outside, maybe you take it outside, it would be 15.
I see one on the side, Polk, that we've got that basically says, how long will the extra 60 minutes out of the school day in the fall last? A month, 6 weeks, or longer? It's for the entire school year. This isn't just a fall specific change. It is for the entire school year. And this, we've been internally calling it a pilot. I don't know that it's language that we're going to continue to use, but if this is a good change in rule, this could be a permanent change. With the 60 minutes. We think that can help people that, have reduced athletic periods and don't meet the 60-minute requirement. And we consider it a safety piece. Athlete development in terms of in terms of strength and conditioning and training, it just keeps athletes safe. So this could be a piece that could permanently last.
It also, if you're in season, it does not count towards your 8 hours, which is new.
Were we that comprehensive that nobody has questions? I mean, Polk, look at us. Look at us.
I have a question for you.
Okay, what you got, Kelly?
In the strength and conditioning camp, one of the most important things is the self-screening, which our health services has recommended that the students and the coaches do before they leave the house. Don't come on campus before they do the self-screening, because then it might be too late. We have ideas on how to do that to make sure that it's done properly in the right way. But we're hearing that, some people have ways of doing it on the phone. You can use Google Forms. You can just do a sheet of paper that they look at each morning and they check off, and then they call the coach if they have any symptoms. Just wondering if anybody out there has come up with any way of doing this that would ensure that it's done the right way and that we are taking care of the kids and the coaches.
I think that's going to be a pretty broad ranging, and I'm just going to tell you from our UIL vantage point, it runs the gamut of what people are doing. I mean, and I think it all comes down to your individual district and how your superintendent, along with, everybody has a different amount of resources when it comes to what size your district is and your approach in that. So I wish I had a better answer than that. And some of the people on this call, obviously there are, boots on the ground, are going to be able to tell you all the different versions that they have of that. So that's all I can offer on that.
Dr. Elza, I know you touched on this at the start. I've gotten a lot of questions from area ADs if the virtual instruction will continue once strength and conditioning starts. So if you could just touch on that again.
Okay. Yeah. So our whole thought going into this with this virtual piece, and I appreciate and respect the people that are saying, trying to make sure that they're hitting their mark. And, I got to quit virtual training because school's over, and you don't. I mean, you guys continue with the virtual training until June 8th starts. And once June 8th starts, you're going to have kids that are going to be able to come, and you're going to have kids that aren't going to be able to come. You're going to have school districts that they're not going to allow summer strength and conditioning to start out of health concerns. So I say that, and it's a broad stroke, but the flexibility is there. If your school district starts summer strength and conditioning, and you need to still offer some form of virtual meetings, then go for it. We'll draw that back in next year or when appropriate, but if you kind of got to strike a balance between the two of them, or even if you've got kids coming up there, I know I got this question the other day, they're going to have summer strength and conditioning, their kids are going to come up there and work out and go home, but they'd like to meet with them a little bit more. Can they get on a virtual meeting with them? Because they want to keep the social distancing piece. Yes, the answer is yes.
Do we have any more questions? Well, great. Dr. Elza, Brian Polk, thank you guys for joining us today. Oh,
Now,
Stan, go ahead.
I had one question. I was waiting because this is not a strength and conditioning question. First of all, Brian, so thank y'all both for your leadership. We feel so appreciative of y'all's leadership and what y'all are doing, and so thank y'all for that. The question I have, in which all of us are concerned about budgets going into this next school year, you mentioned something about the officials' pay. Has there been any conversation coming back to the Legislative Council, maybe delaying that officials' pay for a certain amount of time till we know where our budgets are?
The conversation, and I was present on the call with the ADs Association, had the conversation directly with THSADA, because THSADA was the one that had originally proposed, and then it was later passed the $5 increase. And they reached out to their board and just asked, would they consider pulling that back and delaying that increase for a year. Of course, the THSADA board, got back and with Rusty and Bob and the board, and just basically said, thank you, but no thank you. And as of right now, in our athletic proposals, there is nothing in place. There's not been a proposal to delay that a year. Now, let me just tell you why the conversation is just out and about in the general world is, if the challenges with them, with school districts having to pay for that increase, it exists. Okay. The flip side of that conversation is, if we don't have this increase now, when will they ever get it? And I think the hardest part about budgets is you talk about a 1A budget in Happy versus a Northside ISD budget. I mean, it's such a broad-ranging conversation in how people plan and prepare and all that. So I'll say that right now, there's nothing on the table right now in a formal way with the council that indicates that this would be pulled back. If it is proposed, then they would probably have to take some sort of action on that, obviously first in the athletic committee and then by the full council.
Great. Anybody else?
I just have one quick question, Mel, Susan, or Brian. Can you guys just, again, quickly clarify on those individual sports? When I know it says that once that individual sport begins, then the summer strength and conditioning will end. So is that when they they've had their first meet, for example, in cross country? Is that when the coach actually officially starts practicing with the entire team? Because obviously they can work with them all summer. So how does that, what's the actual clarification on that?
Their beginning of the year really doesn't affect individual sports from start of the summer. Strength conditioning, the sport specific stuff really is geared towards team sports. So the individual sports that are going to continue their practices in the summer just have to abide by those COVID-19 social distancing restrictions that we've had to add this summer. But they don't have to worry about start of the year. We can't have summer strength conditioning because they can work their kids out year round. The only piece that y'all may have to go into is we changed that CCP language that all coaches have to have their coaches certification program requirements done prior to the first day that they start practice. And that's up to the district on when y'all decide their actual start to their season is once we get closer to the fall. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I just think on that little block on the handout where it's blocked out and it talks about the dates, it says for athletes that participate in the sport that may start prior to the first day of school, and it lists tennis or cross country, those athletes may not attend the summer strength and conditioning program in any sport once their sports season has begun. So I think that just caused some confusion for some of those individual sport coaches.
And I think that's more for the multi-sport kid.
Okay.
So if you're running cross country and you play football or volleyball, it would stop you from being able to go to that strength conditioning should you start your practices then.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you so much.
I did see one question, Melanie, that Deanne Lee is asking about the bathrooms, guys. On that question and answer on that document, both for the individual sports and for everybody else, which would be the team sports, that's covered because we were worried. So yes, they can use bathrooms, and that's what we would prefer. But if you have a facility that's built that it's only the locker rooms, the local school district's going to have some discretion on that. Because obviously, guys, it's just about the distancing piece. And I know we're all coming off Memorial Day weekend and we're going, what is social distancing? Because if you were at the lake, it didn't exist. I can tell you, I saw it with my own eyes. Okay, but we've got to focus on this. We've got to focus on this. Our job is to, when we have our kids on campus, is to keep them safe and to keep them in a distancing piece to where we're not promoting or helping COVID-19 resurrect itself or create itself in our environment. Our goal in a lot of the associations, including this one and including the THSADA and TGCA, is, guys, you got to focus on what the goal is. And the goal is to start on time. And these restrictions that are here they're not going to last forever. I mean, you're going to get to go back to where you don't have to have that 10 feet of distance. You're going to be able to go back to one-on-one drills and contact drills and scrimmaging in volleyball. But we got to start somewhere. And it's not a terrible start, but we're obligated. We're all obligated to make sure that our coaches and the coaches on this call are following these guidelines and just knowing that they're going to change over time. I'm proud of our profession, and we've had to persevere through a lot, and we all see the opportunity to get back, and we just got to rally together and make sure that we get back, and we get back in a strong way. Continue to do what you're doing. This has been incredible, the collaboration, and I see it continue to go on. Oh, Toby's on here sharing his stuff, and that's what you got to do, share with each other. You're not trying to be the rocket scientist, you're trying to just help others get it right. So thank you all for having us on here. Melanie, thank you for your leadership. This has been tremendous. I wish we could stay, but we've got a Zoom with Dr. Harrison and start working on the next phase of what's going on at UIL. So thank you, and you guys stay safe, stay healthy.
Dr. Elza, Brian, Paul, thank you again for your leadership and your time today. You guys have a great day. We appreciate you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part of the agenda, which is our special presentation today. I collaborated with Stan Lang from Northside and Suzette Areola at East Central, and we have asked our superintendents to go through a Q&A panel discussion, which the questions were sent to them ahead of time. So I'd like to welcome Dr. Brian Woods from Northside ISD, Roland Toscano from East Central ISD, and my personal favorite, Dr. Lloyd Versta from Southwest ISD. Thank you guys for joining us today. So the first question, and this just leads off of the UIL discussion we just had, I'm going to pose to Dr. Woods. UIL has released guidelines and potential start date. What do you see as obstacles or concerns for your district, and what are the positives of us starting?
Well, I appreciate the invitation to be here and to be with my my colleagues on this on the panel. So, Melanie, thanks for that. I think this is really hopeful. I think Susan said it really well. I think that the opportunity for us to start perhaps as early as June the 8th to bring kids back to our buildings, to work with coaches that they have deep relationships with and they care about and they miss, is a really hopeful thing. I think in my mind, and I think Stan would agree with this, this is doable. It's something we can accomplish. It's probably going to be a little more expensive than what we've done in the past, just because of the ratio of students to coaches. But I think it is doable, and we're going to make it work. One of the things that I would say just quickly is that I think it is really important for us to not rush, to make high quality plans, to make sure we're comfortable with what we're doing before we execute those plans. If we get this right, it's going to give us a lot more opportunities as public schools to have kids in our buildings. This is a really great opportunity for us to take a first wave of kids with a group of adults we have a lot of faith in and get it right. And I'm really excited about it.
Thank you. Mr. Toscano, with the safety precautions put in place, do you think that obtaining anything you may need for sanitizing, PPE equipment, do you think that that'll halt the start of y'all's strength and conditioning?
No, I think because of how long we've been in this circumstance, we've been able to acquire the things that we've determined we're going to need in our plan, at least initially. I think we're also very aware of what that entails, and we're able to follow the guidelines to the letter and provide all of the things that we need to ensure proper sanitation and such. So we don't think that that's going to be an obstacle on June 8th.
Thank you. Dr. Versta, there's been some concern about participation. Do you see any obstacles in that with kids and parents not wanting to come back yet?
Yeah, and I just want to echo my colleagues. Thank you guys for having us, and listen to UIL. We're very proud of your occupation too. I think between fine arts and athletics, you guys are really that carrot that really helps students want to come to school and be engaged in school and be part of school. And I know a lot of us are sitting in this chat because of those experiences when we were young. And so, yeah, I agree with Brian and Roland both. I'm very excited about some heartbeat going into our summertime to do something, but we definitely have to do it right. And I know we're over 1,100 school districts throughout the state of Texas. And to me, this is where local control and local decisions really come into play, because I think geographically where you're located may have some decision making into when do you start. You can start as soon as June 8th. You start June 8th. I think you have to consider other summer opportunities that are going on and make sure there's some alignment in those decisions. So I'm excited that the door is opening, but I think we have to be cautious. We have to make good, sound decisions, and we have to put our kids in most upright, well-being, safe environment we can in doing this. So I think, there may be some obstacles, but I think those are local decisions made in concert with those folks who are in the business, working with their school districts.
Thank you. So going off some topics that we've discussed over the last couple of weeks with area ADs and across the state, a big topic of fundraising and sponsorships from our corporate sponsors, local businesses. Mr. Toscano, what are your thoughts on continuing trying to obtain these sponsorships and moving forward with that?
I don't think we necessarily change our relationship in our interactions with folks who typically support our athletic programs. I do think that we have to be very considerate, and our expectations might need to be suppressed a little bit given the impact that everyone has experienced economically. I do want to make a comment on something that you sent us regarding summer activities and coach compensation. I think that everybody may be in a different place there with regard to how much they compensate or whether they compensate coaches for that time. But what I want to suggest is that we're very, very aware of the optics here, right? Given our circumstances this spring and how many of us, if not all of us, have ensured that everybody was compensated regardless of the degree of shutdown. And so while I'm in support of compensating coaches for their efforts throughout the summer, we need to make sure that we're transparent, communicating clearly the value that we're adding during that time and why such compensation is justified.
Thank you. And I was going to move that to another piece, but we'll go ahead and Dr. Woods, would you like to comment on that?
Yeah, I think I appreciate what Roland said about making sure that we're really clear about the value add that's happening during the summer with kids and coaches. We will definitely plan to compensate coaches as we have in the past for this work. Again, I think I said earlier that because of the numbers of students per student, that's going to be maybe a little bit more fiscally challenging than it was in the past. One of the things, and I appreciate the question to Susan about official pay and that kind of thing. I think all of us are starting to be pretty concerned about at least the intermediate range future of budgets for public schools. And so that is something to keep in mind. But yeah, we will definitely plan to compensate coaches and to compensate them in a diverse district in an equitable way, school to school.
Thank you. Dr. Verstiff, any comment?
Just that I agree with what I just heard from both Roland and Brian. I think it's important that we do recognize the value add of our coaches into our program during the summertime. I know it's something we've always done here in our school district, and I think the earlier that our athletic departments can come up with a proposed budget moving forward, the earlier we can take that in front of our governing bodies and make those decisions in support of making sure we can do these programs during the summer.
Thank you. So moving on to another topic Dr. Elza touched on was our upcoming Coaching Schools AD Conference, Texas Girls Coaches Association Conference. In communication with many of our area ADs, what are y'all's thoughts on us attending these conferences, and will your district allow that to move forward? Dr. Woods?
Yeah, I think if we feel like it's safe for folks to attend and it's going to, on the assumption that they're going to be held in person, I don't see that we would deviate from what we've done in the past and allow folks to attend. And if it has to be virtual or coaches are just more comfortable in a virtual setting, I think we would certainly encourage and allow that as well. So I don't see a change necessarily related to COVID, again, assuming that it's safe for folks to travel.
Thank you. Dr. Verstiff?
I think we all believe in the associations and the learning opportunities. And I agree, if the protocols and folks feel comfortable and their social distancing opportunities, I don't think we would have any problem in supporting the will of our coaches, athletic directors wanting to attend those events. I believe we would have to be able to relay what those protocols are to possibly our governing board, because we would have other entities within our district asking the same thing. And so I think we would have to kind of come up with a overall arching kind of expectations to attend these types of events for everyone.
Great, thank you. And speaking on that, Mr. Toscano, is there any thoughts of out-of-town travel for tournaments, non-district games that may need overnight stay? Could you speak on that?
Along the lines of a similar theme, I mean, all of the criteria and the conditions that are going to have to be met, whether it's coaches traveling for professional development or teams traveling for competition, would have to align with where we've landed as a school community. And so long as they're aligned, we would do everything that we could to support those endeavors. Now, that being said, when it comes to competition, given our current climate, I think we might spend a little more time around, can we have a similar experience for our kids locally that we're trying to get by traveling? We normally wouldn't spend as much time having that conversation, while it's always part of the conversation, as we will now going forward.
Thank you. Dr. Woods?
Yeah, I think that's well said. For the folks on this call, I think we need to be ready to flex into more local, high quality tournaments, for instance, if we feel like that's necessary. So I know that there's already some talk about developing something, some things along that line. And, I don't know that any of us are prepared to say today whether in August we'd be comfortable with kids staying in a hotel, but we need to be ready in case the answer is no, and offer those kids a similar quality experience here locally.
Thank you. And with the plan moving forward of possible football season, what are your thoughts on live streaming of games if it's allowed by the UIL? Maybe using student groups to do that, possibly using it as a pay-per-view experience to still sell tickets. Dr. Verstiff, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, I would say a lot's going to be contingent on where we are getting through June and getting into July and making some decisions, but fully would support the ability. If we, depending on what the COVID landscape looks like as a nation, as a state, locally, if we are restricted from gathering as any form of crowd, that we do use virtual opportunities out for not only the families, but also our communities. I think we've seen a huge kind of jump into technology, moving to this emergency virtual learning platform. So technology has been a really good friend in many aspects of this huge interruption we're all going through. And I don't see why we wouldn't want to use it in the event that we can't, in some modified version, be able to gather in larger crowds. Now, I think we should still use it, even if we do have some ability to gather this crowd, so that we can definitely promote what's going on in our communities, in our schools, and with our student athletes.
Can't get my computer. Thank you. Mr. Toscano, there's been talk of going to straight online ticket sales among the ADs and limiting cash on hand and that interaction. What are your thoughts on doing that? It's specific to your community.
Very similar to what Dr. Verstiff mentioned. I think that regardless of what the future looks like, given what we've learned through this experience, I think that we need to begin to prepare for limiting contact and exchange of tickets and money. I think that we need to be prepared to offer streaming of contests and games, because we're going to have a percentage of the population going forward, no matter what, that are not comfortable gathering in large crowds. They're not comfortable having physical contact, whether that's ticket exchanges or money exchanges. And that's not going to go away regardless of the guidelines or regardless of the context that we're in. I think that's just going to be part of the new normal going forward. And so I think it's a good plan to consider and flesh out and be prepared to deploy.
Great, thank you. So moving forward, Dr. Woods, what can we expect to begin planning for starting school in August? Will the school calendar look the same, and possible start dates, are they changing?
I was kind of hoping you were going to direct this to Lloyd or Roland.
Oh, I got one for Dr. V, don't worry.
No, I don't know that any of us has an answer for that. We're kind of leaning away from a major calendar change, just because I think that requires a pretty significant community conversation that's hard to do in a 4 or 6 week period of time. But I think even if the school calendar doesn't change, we're going to have to be ready to flex that calendar significantly, and we may have to be ready to flex it in one way at one school and in a different way at another school, that's where I think we're going to have real challenges for the people in this audience, being ready to perhaps take a game that, or multiple games that was scheduled, and reschedule them because the school was closed and you didn't think you could take the risk. So I think the challenge for the folks on this call is to kind of get away from the notion that once the schedule's set, it never flexes. I think those days, at least for a while, are over.
Great, thank you. There's been a lot of talk of intersessions and hybrid schedules. Dr. Verstoff, could you talk about that, please?
Yeah, Mel, there has been a lot of talk. So I'm actually in meetings with Roland and Brian multiple times a week, and we actually are in meetings with TEA twice a week. And so we are connecting, I think, locally at a really high level. And I think as a state, we're kind of connecting. And so TEA is offering some opportunities. Their year-round school, their intersession capabilities, where you take longer breaks at Thanksgiving, a longer break like a month at Christmas, and maybe 3 or 4 weeks at spring break, and then go further into the summer. Then there's another option where you can do your traditional schedule and extend, do some summer school extension. And so, we're all looking at those opportunities. So districts are going to have to make choices. And I know in our geographical area, give you the analogy of, we're all trying to maybe not be in the same place on the beach, but we're all trying to be on the same beach because we know it's important that we kind of work together and we work collectively. And I know I have a lot of Northside parents who are employees here, and how their schedule will impact our schedule, and same with East Central and other surrounding districts. And so intercession is one of the options, so is year-round, and so is looking at doing some summertime extension. So we are definitely in those conversations right now, and having those conversations, I think, as a regional area about what would work best for all of us to partake in.
Great, thank you. Dr. Woods, could you speak on the importance of returning to sporting and extracurricular activities, not just for the students, but the community as a whole in Northside?
Yeah, happy to. So again, I am really excited about the notion of strength and conditioning. I know it doesn't, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it is our first opportunity to have kids back in our buildings. And as I said before, it's an opportunity and a responsibility for us to get that right and to do it in a way that's engaging for kids and safe for kids and for staff. So I think it's a really hopeful sign. I was really happy to hear Susan talk about the notion of the goal being to return on time, to start seasons more or less when we would usually start them. And I think it just brings a sense of hope. I think it brings a sense of normalcy to families on this notion of live streaming. I think any way we can get competition out to our communities, I don't care what the competition is, and see kids doing things that they love, it's going to be a sign of hope and a sign of normalcy for folks. And I think it's going to help draw families that have some trepidation about coming to school. I think it's going to draw them back and draw them in. And I cannot say how important it is to have our families reconnected with us and come back to our building. So I am really excited, but again, we do have a responsibility to do this really well so that all those positive byproducts can happen.
Great, thank you. Mr. Toscano, moving forward in your community of East Central ISD, what are some major areas of concern that you have to address just for the safety aspect so that your families feel more comfortable coming back to campus?
Well, before I respond to what I think is the most difficult question in the entire lineup, thank you, Melanie. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to tweet or tattoo what Dr. Verstoff said about getting to the beach, but I'll want to be on the same beach. Thank you for that. I moved, Dr. Verstoff. I think the theme that is rising to the surface is flexibility. I'd like to think about it as being maneuverable. Nobody knows that more than you guys on this call, that we have to have the ability as an organization to change directions on a dime, unlike ever before. And the way you do that is through contingency planning. And if our community is going to feel comfortable, keeping in mind that our own surveys and surveys that I've seen across the country suggest that as much as 30% of all of our communities, no matter what we do, if there is a COVID-19 related concern that still exists in our country, are not going to send their kids back to school. We surveyed our community last week, and those are the numbers we got. That being said, if they know clearly that we have a contingency plan, very thoughtful, comprehensive, and transparent for if we return face-to-face as if things were relatively normal, and we communicate that we have a plan for if we're in a combination or blended kind of scenario. Here is our comprehensive plan. It's transparent, it's comprehensive. And if we have to pivot at any point in time to either of those two or a virtual platform, here is the plan. It's very comprehensive. It's very transparent. And all the way down to if in the event somebody has a positive COVID diagnosis, what is the plan? And it has to be, to the extent possible, clear and consistent and comprehensive and aligned in partnership with all of the expertise that we rely on to respond to those things. And then lastly, that our school calendar has to have some sort of degree of flexibility within it for next year. Like the previous comments from my colleagues, we're not ready to jump into some sort of a massive calendar shift in such a short period of time, but we also know that next year we have to have some time built in to be able to flex, as Dr. Woods has mentioned on a couple of occasions. I think taken together, our community will be more confident and comfortable that we have a plan, we've communicated the plan, we've trained and developed around that plan, and we're prepared to execute the plan regardless of what the world brings us, regardless of what guidance brings us. We're going to be able to pivot from Friday to Monday and toggle between any of those plans. And I think the degree to which we do that well is the degree, again, to which our community will be confident, while accepting the fact, as I previously mentioned, that there is a percentage of our community that no matter what we do are not going to feel comfortable while COVID-19 is still a concern.
Great, thank you. Dr. Verstev, I'd like you to talk about our big project we have going on in our district of planning our outdoor graduations at our 2 high schools. What has been entailed in that, and what do you see the obstacles and the positives?
Yeah, so I think the positive is that we all recognize, and I know you have 3 different school districts on here, and all 3 of us are doing something different to really recognize and acknowledge and validate our graduating seniors. And I think you have to take into consideration where you're located, how big your graduating class is, what does your community feel about doing an outdoor commencement activity? Because in anything that we do, there's some inherent risk to that we can come up with the best plan ever, but what I heard this morning is like Mike Tyson says, everyone has a plan until you're punched into the face, and then the plan changes. And so what we're doing in our school district, we've had a task force of about 40 folks. We're really working out what those logistics look like. And so we've been able to come up with what we think is a very comprehensive plan of entry and exit, and using PPE, social distancing, student attestations, parent attestations. So we call it a very modified, restricted outdoor commencement activity. We'll have seats basically labeled off where the students sit in a color-coded area of the football field will be in alignment with where the parent sits and their kind of 4 available slots. And so we've had a plan, and we've basically been able to apply our incident command plan to that and really come up with some specific tasks. Matter of fact, before this meeting, I just walked out of another meeting with the Bexar County Emergency District where we asked them to partner with us and to be very critical of our plan. And so they're going to be part of it. And so I think we're addressing an outdoor commencement event that we think is going to acknowledge and recognize our students just like any other district is doing, because these students deserve something. I say a lot of times our students left for spring break and never came back, and that's really hard for some graduating seniors to not have that sense of closure, to not be acknowledged. And I know we're going to do it differently, but I think as long as we all do something towards recognizing them, we send them off with some type of lifetime memory that they can look back upon and know they went to a school district, no matter where they went, that loved them, cared for them, and did something to give them some sense of closure. So we're doing that here. We think we got a great plan. What we talked a lot about this morning was this plan may be our plan as we get into the fall sports where we have large crowds, that we can apply the same metrics that we came up with. So we feel that we're using this opportunity as a pilot. We think we have everything done. All we need now is for the parents to listen to us on that day. And if that happens, we think it'll be a success at both of our high schools. June 5th and June 6th, if you're bored, I'm sure I can get you a pass to come be part of it.
Thank you so much. Dr. Woods, Mr. Toscano, Dr. Verstiff, I really appreciate you guys taking time today to be with us. Dr. Woods, I open the floor to you to any closing comments.
I'll just going to reiterate what's I think's been said well, and that is that this group, for better or for worse, however you feel about it, has the opportunity to be the first to supervise students back on our schools in a way that's safe, and to, as I think I've said probably too many times, get it right. So we're really counting on this group of folks, because I think to the degree this goes well, it will really open the door for other groups of students and their families to feel comfortable coming back to school.
Thank you. Mr. Toscano?
Certainly want to acknowledge the importance that athletics and extracurricular activities has in the educational process. And while we're going to have to make some really tough decisions in our planning going forward, and there's going to be a lot of pressure for us to focus on the academic aspects of schooling, we all know that to develop the whole child, to develop the character and the resilience, and ultimately help them to establish those transferable skill sets that make them employable folks, as well as great people and contributing citizens in our communities, that we need athletics to support the social and emotional well-being and development of children. And so the gear that is extracurriculars and athletics is an integral gear in the education process. And what you do makes lives change and impacts their futures in significant ways. And we just appreciate you a great deal.
Thank you. Dr. Verstiff?
Yeah, I just had always appreciate the opportunity to be with Roland and Brian in any group, and appreciate working with them. And you guys are inspirational. And what I heard this morning from UIL, they don't have the answers. I want you guys to know we don't have all the answers either. And I'm gonna, when it comes into this arena, I'm really gonna lean into our folks, our athletic directors and our assistant athletic directors for direction, advice, and ask that when we talk about our next steps, that we talk about them specifically to that arena, but we talk about them and how they collaborate with everything else that we do in a school district. And where we get the opportunity to inspire and give hope, I say we do that at every corner and every turn moving forward. So thank you guys for everything, Mel. Thank you for the invitation. And I really had a really joyous morning. I learned a lot here this morning.
Thank you. Again, I appreciate all three of you taking time to spend with us today. You're welcome to stay on for our meeting, but I know you guys have a lot to do and on your plate. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, boss.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to move to the next portion of our agenda, which is the introduction of today's state sponsors. I want to welcome Arash Azadi from LPA.
Good morning.
Thank you all for joining us today, and thanks for the opportunity to be here with you. I am going to share my screen here, if you give me 1 second. All right, so hopefully you can see my screen here. And I've promised 5 minutes, so I'm going to go through this rather quickly here. So some of you guys are familiar with LPA. Some of you our name may be new to you. Just a quick little introduction. LPA. We've been in Texas for over 30 years, but we are a national firm with offices throughout the country. Part of our Texas leadership here. My name is THSADA. I'm Director of Sport and Recreation for the firm. And on the call today, we have Gary Blanton, who's our Regional Director, Sarah Flowers, who's local to this region in San Antonio, and Craig Drone, who is our Studio Director in Dallas. And hopefully you guys can all see my screen. If you can't, someone yell. So proven track record, we are an education-based firm. We do work with many districts all over the state, but one thing that's unique about us is our sports and recreation group. We are have a dedicated practice that specifically focuses on sports and recreation related work. We're a top 10 firm as far as sports firms in the country, 40 plus stadiums, 40 plus aquatic facilities. I think we have 13 aquatic facilities going on right now, over 10 million square feet of synthetic turf designed, and we've been around for a long time overall, so won't bore you with too many of that. Just a quick sampling of the work, everything from field resurfacings to the LA Chargers training facility. I know that's probably a bad word in this group, but they're not very good anyway, so it probably doesn't matter. And then looking at aquatic facilities, everything from Olympic training facilities to community-based pools to natatoriums and local to, again, this region, the Alamo Heights Natatorium project that's being built right now. We look at this really as a stool and providing comprehensive services that it goes everything from assessments and operations to program evaluation, development, and costs. You got to have all pieces of that stool there. Otherwise, the whole thing sort of topples over. I'm not quite sure how stable this stool is, but I think you guys get the point. So just wrapping this up, we really pride ourselves on the ability to listen, the ability to partner with you. We believe we're very innovative, and ultimately the bread's in the pudding, right? You've got to deliver. And so with that said, I think that, I don't know, maybe I had 4.5 minutes somewhere in there. Please feel free to reach out to any of us. My contact information's on the screen. I know that's tough to get, but we can follow up with anyone through the organization here, and Sarah Flowers, who's going to remain on the call as well. Her contact information is there. So thank you so much. That was our 30-second or 5-minute spiel. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much.
And I'll stop sharing here. If I can find a way to stop sharing. Maybe one of you guys can stop sharing for me. Stop, no, that was stop video.
Bob, any help here?
Yeah, let's see, I'll go out of that. Oh,
Can you take over the screen, Mel?
Yeah, I'll tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna quit the Zoom call here, and that'll get rid of me. So thank you again, everyone. Appreciate it, bye-bye.
Okay, here we go. Next, Jeff Gossett from Paragon Sports. Jeff, you got to unmute.
No, you really don't want to hear me, do you? It's great to see y'all. It's a privilege to be a sponsor of the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association, as well as the Texas High School Coaches Association and Texas High School Baseball Association. Most of you know what Paragon does. Paragon puts in football fields, baseball, softball, soccer, tracks, tennis courts, and we also do field maintenance. So if you have an older field that needs fluffed up a little bit, give us a call. During this COVID, the only good thing that came out of this COVID is that we were able to get to work on some of our fields a little earlier than usual. Usually we have to wait till track's over. This year we got on them in March and April, and most of them are finishing up. So we're actually working on 3 fields for Stan Lang right now, 3 football fields, and can't wait to see those when they're done. I'd like to give a shout out to Mark Soto on his new position and Ronnie Ritterman on his new position, as well as Kelly Parker. I know you'll do a great job there. Paragon's grown over the last 10 years I've been with them. We've grown probably from 5 million to 50 million. And we couldn't have done it without our product. And we partnered with Shaw Sports Turf. Our product, our quality of installations, and our service is unbelievable. If anybody knows William Chaff, he'll take care of you no matter what. And that's what I like about him, and I feel the same way. I'll take care of you. But the Rangers, we did finish his ballpark. The new ballpark is Ranger Stadium. We haven't been able to see a game there yet, but hopefully that'll happen soon. The Rangers did research for 2 years on turf, and they went to all the companies, went to all the factories, and they chose Paragon and Shell Sports Turf. So we're proud of that. I can't wait to see you all in person. But it's good to see your faces at least. But I can't wait to see you all in person. Hopefully at the AD convention coming up. So until then, give me some air knuckles, air high fives, air handshakes, air hugs, and I'll see you all later.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah.
Next, we have Amy Chapman from Brock. Champion, I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Good morning, everybody. It's ironic that I'm third on the wheel here because I work with the first 2. We work closely with LPA and we work closely with Paragon installing turf fields. Brock USA is the leading shock pad provider in the country. What are shock pads? We basically are the underlayment below the turf. We provide shock absorption. These particular pads are highly engineered to support that absorption of impact, provide your kids safety, provide you a guaranteed Gmax result of 120 or less, with the industry standard being 165. Also provide you a guaranteed HIC result, which has been the biggest conversation as of late when you talk about field safety. HIC result is head injury criteria, and with our engineered shock pads below your turf, we guarantee that result to be 750 or less when 1,000 is considered a little risky. So, installing a shock pad really is no different than when you install carpet in your home. You wouldn't put your carpet directly on the concrete slab. It's the same kind of concept, same analogy. You would actually have a pad below your carpet. Your turf field's no different. We highly recommend a shock pad for that. Like I said, Brock's been around over 20 years. We have multiple Texas partners right now. We have many more on the books. And as Jeff mentioned, everybody's schedules right now are so full. We've been able with the COVID to work a little early in some school districts, but we have a lot of work coming throughout the summer and throughout the fall. And I know this has been very hard on everyone. And we're looking forward to hopefully that June 8th date where we see kids back on your fields and back on your campuses. One other item I want to talk to you about is one of the latest infields for your turf field. It's called Brockfield. Brockfield has been a 3.5-year journey for our company. Brockfield is a wood infill. Most of your turf fields you see today have the crumb rubber with sand base. We really want to get rubber out of the market. It's a very hot material for our kids, especially in the summertime when those fields can get to be 160 to 170 degrees. So we wanted to invent and create a material that would support heat reduction, great traction, and Brockfield now is on multiple fields throughout the state. And ironically, Paragon is getting ready to install 5 right outside of Austin with our shock pad and Brockfield as well. So heat reduction is a #1 topic as well in conversation, especially here in the state of Texas. And to wrap it up for us, there are 3 things I want you to remember. Brock is considered in the industry, we are considered the field safety guys. The shock pad, the infill, these are all things to keep in mind as you move forward, especially if you have upgrades or modifications coming. But there are 3 points to field safety, and I've touched on all 3. One of them is impacts. Make sure as you move forward, you consider installing a Brock shock pad to help protect your student athletes and drastically decrease those injuries. The second one is heat. We talked about that. You know, fields here in Texas can get very, very hot. Consider these organic and all natural infills, and particularly Brockville, which also carries a 10-year warranty. And lastly is traction. You know, you want to make sure that it's stable underfoot, that your infill is compacted, and your field plays great, a lot like a natural grass field. So I've actually put my contact information into the chat room. It has my email, cell phone, or web address. If you have any other questions and you're not in the chat room, here's my contact information. I'm not sure if this is actually clear or if you can see it, but again, I will make sure that it's in the chat room. If you have any questions, give us a call, and I want to encourage each one of you to hang in there. We're all in this together, and it will get better.
Great. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you to all of our state sponsors. We appreciate you guys. We're going to move on to our committee reports. Pete Wagner, membership, anything? Negative. Okay. Barbara, I know you had some announcements from the TAC committee.
Yeah, so just a couple things. Hello, everybody. First of all, just in case you feel like you need some extra professional development right now and you're totally bored of Netflix, the 2019-2020 TAC videos are all online. For if you go back, maybe there's something you missed, maybe you just want to go back and refresh or review. There's no credit given for watching those videos because they're in the past, but they are available, and you just go on the website, you can watch those. Our conference agenda and schedule for is online right now. So what we're asking you to do is to please go online and look at that agenda. We have 7 different sessions that have a panel of presenters right now, and we want some input from y'all. So if you have any questions that you would like these panelists to address and things that relate specifically to your school district, to your situation, please email those to me. My email is bwise1@saisd.net. So just shoot me any of those emails or those questions, and we'll try and get those to the panelists so they're addressing things that are relevant to you. And finally, if any of you out here are on a panel or are presenters or moderators and you're not going to be able to attend the conference, if it's in person, if we do have it in July, please let us know right away so we can reschedule and get somebody on there. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Barbara. Ryan, publications.
Yes, obviously during these uncharted times, the need to share accurate and helpful information that can benefit our students and staff is paramount right now. So if you have any documents that are addressing things that you know we're in need of, please share those with me. If you have return to play documents, anything addressing summer strength and conditioning, or even if you just have some positive or inspirational stories, please share those with me. My email is rdupre@jetsonisd.org, and I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat. So thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Brenda, NIAAA.
Well, we were very fortunate to have a gentleman, a student named Brant Galt from Bernie Champion, to win the Texas NIAAA Student Scholarship Award. The female student was from the Valley, Brownsville, Hannah, but we did have Brant won for this out of this region. We would like to encourage, and I know it's a year away, but we never get enough applications for these awards. He will receive a $500 check from the Texas high school ADs. He did go up against the other states in our region, and they selected someone from Colorado and Arkansas for the $1,500 next step in the scholarship. So that's, you know, a chance for students to get a chance to win something, and it's really beneficial, and it's actually kind of cool reading their stories when they're applying for these, because there's a part where they have to talk about their life and sports, what it means to them.
Thank you, Brenda. Suzette, awards.
Everybody's a winner. Everybody gets an award. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well, you and your families. It's good to see everyone. Just here to push and pump up the Pbk Sports Luncheon that we're going to be having on Monday the 13th. That's at 11:30. When you register for the conference, you also need to register, and you can pay for your ticket at that point. They're $20. We are almost sold out, so you better get online today and jump on and grab that ticket. But we encourage everyone to please come and show their support at the luncheon. Again, it'll be on Monday afternoon, the 13th at 11:30. $20, and you can pay for that when you register for the conference. But we look forward to seeing everybody, and you'll have a great day.
I need to unmute. Brian Clancy, anything from policy? Nope. Very good. Bobby, anything from the athletic committee?
No athletic committee, but I do have from the officials, and I think Susan covered that. The basic, the two major things that was going to be sent to the Legislative Council was the $5 increase, only to reflect the $5 across the board instead of the $20. I think it was going to go up to 70 at some point. But you know, we were able to work that out and propose it. I think it was a good meeting. And the second item was that there was going to be an increase to the scrimmages, a $25 increase to the scrimmages, and we were okay with that because there's not too many of them, and a lot of schools don't have 3 scrimmages. Maybe they just might go to 1, so it's the expense will be limited. But those were the only 2 items that we did with the officials.
I just want to thank Bobby for his work on the SOC committee with UIL, because if you watch that SOC meeting, he fought really hard for us. And Bobby, just want to tell you how much we appreciate you.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, Mel, can I say something real quick on that and to Bobby? Yeah, Bobby, I've been on that committee in years past too, and I know it's a tough deal balancing that, supporting our officials and, you know, obviously our budgets. But I guess just a quick question. Am I the only one concerned about us going forward with proposing, you know, approving the increase with all the budget cuts? You know, I just want to know where we stand on that, because I know what Susan said, but I'm not so sure that you know, something else needs to be said, but I might be in the minority.
No, Stan, you're not in the minority. I think one of the things I stated was that because of the uncertainty and we don't know what our budgets are going to look like, that they should just freeze it and revert back to what we were doing this past year or the year before, until this whole COVID thing subsides or we actually know what's going to happen. But I think I said that a number of times, but you know, I think once they approved it and the council already has it, I mean, I don't know if you can go back and change it, but yeah, I mean, definitely with something we can look into on freezing everything. I know our district is frozen hiring, our district is frozen our budgets, our district is frozen pretty much everything. So I think it's something that we can look into, and I'd love to hear y'all's ideas on that.
Well, I think one thing, in my opinion, we had 3 very well-spoken superintendents today. And I think those superintendents have relationships with that legislative council. I think at this point, that may be the best conversation course of at least have a conversation with them and at least get in their ears a little bit. I know my plans too.
Stan, when after that meeting that Bobby did a great job in, I went and talked to my superintendent, and I assume he talked to Dr. Woods because that's what he said he was going to do. I think in our position, we just need to give him some direction as to. I asked him who is our representative for the superintendents on the legislative council, and I think he's willing to do it. And I think if, you know, obviously our Bexar County Stoops all have a pretty good relationship. I think if we just need to get them to come together maybe and make that proposal up there in some way, shape, or form, maybe form from this group and we lead the charge. I don't know, but I'll be willing to be a part of that. But yeah, I think that's, like you said, I second that it's probably gonna need to come from our Stoops. And from what I heard Dr. Elza say, it's a matter of a proposal needs to be made of some kind to do that for them to act on, is what it sounded like.
Yeah.
Right.
The thing is, we certainly don't want to be adversarial about it because we do support our officials association and all that. But again, when that was approved, you know, could not foresee the uncommon times that we're in right now. And so get it and understand and want support on that end. But again, we've got to operate budgets. And, you know, if you know, and of course I won't share what our hit is because it's substantial because we're so big, but I'm going to have to cut somewhere else to make up that difference.
Yeah, I'll add some to that, Stan. Very good points. And I do appreciate Bobby really stood up tall at the SOC committee meeting and voiced his concern over that $5 increase. And there was very little feedback from the superintendents that were in that meeting. And of course, THSADA was not going to support that. I think we all were surprised going back to October when all three associations got up and spoke against the increase at that time. And you're right, Stan, we didn't even have any idea we were going to be facing COVID-19. But somehow it passed. And I was frankly very surprised that when everybody stood up not in support of it, that it did pass so easily, even with a kind of a proposal for another $5 increase in 21-22. So I think your idea about talking to your superintendents is very valid. I think the kind of feel that I get from the UIL is that it's not, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but it's already passed and we're moving on. But what I think I've heard from around the state is that not only will you face budget cuts to some degree this year, it's looking like the 2 years after that could be significant, as in the 15-20% range, not just for athletics, but for school budgets. I mean, look at what the petroleum industry is going through right now, and we know that drives a lot of our economy. So I think that at least posing the question to the council, whether it comes from our association or your superintendents, it's a valid discussion to have, because what we might be faced with if we pass this $5 increase is going back the following October or the following June saying, hey, we're 20% down with our revenues for school districts. How can we justify continuing this increase? So let's continue having that discussion. Talk to your superintendents, and then if you want to give Rusty and I direction of what you would like us to do in our board, we'll be happy to consider it. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Bob.
Thank you, guys. I'm gonna, before I turn over for AD Association updates with Bob, I'm gonna have Stan give Texas High School Coaches Association updates.
Oh yeah, actually I'll be very quick because a lot of it's already been discussed today. And I think really Susan said it very well that, you know, we have all these organizations that, you know, they're great and really have an important purpose for all of us. Obviously, we're so grateful for our ADs Association, TGCA, and then I just happen to serve on this board with the Coaches Association. And just real quick, so you're updated to what basically your coaches and have been told that are on those committees. But the big thing obviously was the conversation that we had in our meeting was prior to UIL releasing what they had, was a lot of talk about the strength conditioning guidelines. I think we all heard it today. We need to pump the brakes and make sure, you know, can't say no what all of our superintendents said. We just have to make sure we do it right. This is our first opportunity to prepare for this fall. And that was the consensus, is we're preparing for, we're going to be ready for this fall. And again, we just want to make sure we do all that we can in that regard. The platform of communication, I think most of y'all are aware that the Coach Association has been pushing the app Sports U. A number of your coaches are on that Sports U and how they're communicating to one another. And it's been very, very helpful during this time, actually. And we didn't foresee it, how our coaches are going to have to stay connected to their kids. And so if you want to learn more about that, you know, obviously get with your head coaches, because most of them are aware of it and that's how Coaches Associations send out a lot of their communication piece. The last thing, and again, Susan did a great job talking about us supporting all of our organizations, and TGCA is the first one out of the box, and we hope that it goes off well. Obviously, our ADs Association, we're keeping our fingers crossed, so we might be able to see each other in person. You guys look great on the camera here, but I'd much rather see you in person. So hopefully that works out. But the push with the Coaches Association is really encourage our coaches to register, regardless, you know, because their cut date, what Joe had mentioned, is probably mid-June. They will make a decision on whether or not they're going to, if we're still able to have the convention here in San Antonio, But to make it feasible because of attendees, they'll have to make a decision mid-June. But if we do have it, they're still going to have it. They've assured us a virtual component. And again, Susan mentioned that earlier. It's real important with the coaches' requirements, obviously, that our coaches will have the opportunity to take care of those coaches' requirements through that. So again, just encouraging the registration.
Hey, Mel, can I say something real quick or ask a question? To everyone, are y'all experiencing any pushback from your administration on traveling and signing up for either coaching school or the AD's conference in Waco? And the reason I say that is because I've already brought up that discussion with my superintendent, and he's an ex-coach, and so he's very supportive. And he just said, Bobby, if we haven't let anyone travel, and now we're going to let you guys go to San Antonio with 8, 10, 12,000 coaches coming from hotspots and other places, and then they're going to congregate. And why are we going to let you go? And he flat out told me, he says, I need to think about it, but I'm leaning towards no. So if they offer we're not going to cut a check to you to travel. We're going to cut a check for you to register and do an online component. But has anybody experienced, and what have you been telling your superintendents to maybe let you go? Because for right now, it's as much as I want to support all of our associations, you know, I have that obstacle to get over.
You know, my only comment is you heard my superintendent and his comments today. You know, he's, you know, as long as it's safe and it's okay to travel, you know, he's going to be in full support of it.
I'll tell you, Bobby and Stan, the rest of you, we polled every region around the state, and we're getting similar answers to what I've seen in front of me this morning. We've got probably a third to 40% of our ADs that are being discouraged from considering any travel. We heard from some ADs that the superintendents, similar to today, would support it if it was safe. And I might as well go ahead and do it now, but each of the 3 convention centers for TGCA, THSCA, and ours are not in operation. The people who serve our exhibit halls and set up all those are not in operation. The hotels, speaking of the Waco ones, they're not even open right now. So a lot has to happen between, like I think Bobby said it, now in June 15th for all 3 associations to kind of determine if they're going to open up and to what degree they're going to open up, and that'll determine whether our soups are comfortable with us attending. So we really only have about 2.5 weeks to see how things are going to shake out.
Great, thank you. Bob, is there any other association updates?
Yeah, I've got a couple things. I'll make it very brief. I think they're all gone, but I really appreciate LPA Studios and Brock with Amy and Jeff with Paragon for staying in there today, waiting for their opportunity. I can't thank our sponsors enough across the state because they've all found ways to stay with us. And a lot of their businesses are being very adversely affected by what's all going on. Now, you heard Jeff talk about the fact that they're as busy as they can be because there's no hindrance on those campuses. But we do appreciate, they're the lifeblood financially of our association, so we do appreciate that. The superintendent's panel was fantastic today. Those 3 guys gave us an hour of their time, and you can tell that they have athletics and fine arts and extracurriculars in their heart. And that was very evident by their willingness to share today. So Mel, thanks, and Stan for setting that up today. A big thanks to Mel for kind of riding herd on this whole thing today. We had over 330 people sign up for it, and I was kind of watching the counter. We were nearing 300 a couple of times of people that were on at the same time. Couple of state conference things. We know it's July 12th to 15th. Right now it's still on schedule, just like TGCA and THSCA. We'll probably make a decision, the 3 groups, around mid-June. I will tell you, in all this time of difficulty, probably there's been more conversation with 3 associations, probably weekly, if not a couple times a week, which has been very healthy for us to grow together as 3 organizations. So we're trying to make decisions together. They may look a little bit different based on what each organization can do. But we're trying to do things where we're communicating effectively all the time. Like you heard, from Suzette. Hall of Honor is Monday the 13th, 11:30. You can still purchase membership, Hall of Honor tickets, scholarship registration, and golf through June 26th. If something happens and we can't have the conference, then we'll either have a plan for when we'll have it or how we'll handle the monies that have been collected so far. So kind of hold off on that for a little bit. I would encourage you to double check your hotel reservations. That's on the website, and it'll tell you what hotels rolled it over, and it'll tell you what hotels just closed it. So please make sure you check that so you know where that's going. Summer Roundtable is going to occur June 18th. That's the day after Legislative Council. So what we'll have that day, like we did for our Spring Roundtable, is you'll have Susan on and Brian and probably Dr. Bryda and Jamie Harrison giving an update for what all transpired during council, plus any COVID-19 social gathering updates that we might be able to talk about. So look for that registration link to go out soon if it's not already out there. I look forward to seeing everybody or seeing everybody in the chat room at council, and then seeing you again at our summer roundtable on the 18th. That's all I have for right now. Thanks so much for being here today. It's great seeing you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob. So I want to take the time right now to congratulate Karen Funk on being our Region 8 Athletic Administrator of the Year. We're very proud of her, and I also want to congratulate her on her upcoming retirement. And I want to ask Stan to share some words with us.
Yeah, and certainly glad to. Kelly, thank you for grabbing your former boss and making her sit down in front of the camera, because I know she wasn't on there. So thank you. Karen, just want to take a couple of minutes, and this is on behalf of the rest of the ADs and obviously your friends. Here's the deal. You've proven once again you're smarter than the rest of us. You knew just the right time to retire. And I'm sure Kelly Parker is really appreciative of your time here. But because of your leadership, and I know your staff well over there, because of your leadership, they're going to be just fine. I'm moving forward. And professionally speaking, again, this is on behalf of all of us. You're going to be greatly missed. What you have given to this profession, I've known you long enough, is second to none. And of course, your opinions are going to be missed greatly. You always had something to say, and 99.9%, I've always admired those opinions. So thank you for being you professionally. It's no question, it's a no-brainer that you were selected our regional AD of the year. Obviously to pay tribute to you. Obviously, we didn't know we were going to be in these circumstances, right? And so obviously the hope is the celebration will take place at the AD's convention, and Mel, Suzette, and Barbara are going to be in charge of entertainment for us, okay? They didn't know that now, but we're going to make sure if we're able to do it in person, we're going to do it right and just enjoy and have a good time to be together. This is really the most important for me. Again, because of you being you, we're just blessed with the person. All of us have a personal relationship with you. For me personally, because of that sister-like relationship you have with Kirby all these years, I've gotten to know you personally in that regard, and I'll cherish the most, for me personally, is the conversations you and I have had on your love for God. It has really made me appreciate from a standpoint that we are brother and sisters in Christ. And again, that is something, a personal side that I've always admired in you from that faith perspective. So thank you for that. Thank you for all that you've done professionally and personally, but all the best to you.
Thank you. Thank you. I do have to tell you, now that you're my Facebook friend, I have stolen a couple. I've sent out to my to our coaches on my Monday morning meeting a couple of Matthew Kelly's pieces from Dynamic Catholic. So I'm sneaking it in. You're a little more overt than I am, but I didn't want those Baptists to find me. But it's been a pleasure. I've had a great life. JC Comelander sends me an email once a week and always texts me no matter what time of day it is. So I want to open that up to everybody else. Don't forget me. Put me on some annoying text message piece. call me when you're going out, or let me know if I can come and help you. I don't have a plan. I promised Brian to not do anything for the next 6 months, and I'm not sure that's going to happen. But it is a tough time to leave. It's the right time for me personally, but I just sent a note to Rusty Dowling. I was answering his message, and I hate to leave a mess for somebody. Nobody wants to leave something in disarray. You always want to leave it with a bow on it and make it right, so they just step in and ease into that position, and that's not going to happen this time. So my thoughts are with all of you, and my prayers are definitely with all of you. And I want our kids to come back because they need us. And on the flip side of it, we need to see their smiling faces. And I'm going to say this, I love this Zoom meeting, but I'd much rather be sitting quietly with you and having a beverage in my hand, whether it's real Coke or not, and look you in the eye and have that personal conversation, because I know I do have a personal relationship with almost all of you. And I'm grateful for that. I'm really grateful for that. So thanks, and I'll see you at the convention in July. It'll be good. Thanks, Bob.
Just some real quick regional business. I sent out an updated list of cross-country meets this morning. If you are hosting, could you please add your meet to this? I know some people may be skeptical about putting down a meet because you can't confirm a site right now, but we need to get the meets together, and then we'll figure out a plan on how to sign up very soon. Also, I'm going to resend soccer tournaments. We need that information, please, so that we can get our scheduling and hopefully move on to some normalcy. Okay? Does anybody have anything else?
Mel, can I just real quick, I thank you for sending out the question about B teams. Just moving forward, we're looking at maybe removing our B teams from our high school teams, not our middle school teams, for just for possibly volleyball and girls basketball. Of course, boys basketball and football would always stay where they are. But for this coming year, because we do have them for this year, who is not having B teams at the high school levels for freshmen this year that has had them in the past?
I think we got a lot of response on that email thread this morning.
I did. I was looking at that, but I was just really on north side, northeast, and San Antonio. You three are the ones that we typically have any B team games. Has any of that changed from last year?
Yes, we won't have B team games this year for volleyball and basketball, girls only.
Okay, Barbara?
We're still planning on keeping ours. So our boys basketball have B teams. About half of our girls volleyball and half of our girls basketball have B teams.
Okay. And Stan?
Yeah.
Y'all haven't.
It's just, for whatever reason, our girls coaches have voted not to have B teams as in years past on volleyball and basketball. But the boys side, we will continue to have that, as well as a lot of times in football, we're trying to be creative with that fifth quarter, or some of those things that we work on.
Okay, thank you, Mel. I know I've got to send a report here in just a minute, and we did have a lot of response needed. Those were the three teams we typically play volleyball and basketball with. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank
Congratulations,
you guys
Karen.
for being here today. Congratulations again to Karen. We're really going to miss you. And if there's nothing else, I want to say have a great day, and hopefully we get to see you guys soon. Oh, go ahead, Bob.
When we hang up, if Melanie and Suzette and Stan could stay on for 5 minutes, we'll kind of debrief for a second, just to kind of see how things went.
Awesome.
Hey, for the group, Mel, hey, you knocked it out of the park today. So thank you, Mel, for putting this together. That's an effort to
Home run, Melanie.
Yeah, to get the three caliber of superintendents we got all together today was invaluable. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Great job, Melanie. You hit a
Job,
home
Mel.
run. Awesome.
Thank you, Mel. Very good.